Good afternoon. I am Charlene Floyd, the Executive Director of the Houston Police Foundation, and it is my honor and privilege to welcome you here today for our ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Tillman Fertitta Family Tactical Training Center. This is a new facility that we built for our Houston police officers and first responders. I'd like to acknowledge some of my board members, or first off, let me acknowledge the Fertitta family. Tillman's here today with me. He was the first one that stepped up. He stepped up and gave us the first $2.5 million to kick this project off, and Tilman, thank you for that. I'd also like to welcome some of our board members here today. We've got Edna Meyer Nelson, we've got Don Sanders, and John Eddie Williams. Thank you guys for being here. Oh, no, Chris isn't on the board. No, yeah. I'd also like to thank the mayor and city council members that are here with us today. I also like to thank our Ziegler Cooper architects that are here with us today. They have been with us from the very beginning, and I just found out this week that they actually won an award from the Law Enforcement Design Awards people for building this building and recognizing it as an outstanding architect and design for the law enforcement and public safety facilities nationwide. So I think that's a big contribute to our facility and the help that Ziegler helped us with putting this together. Also, special thanks to Comanche Construction. They were our general contractor. Steve Crawford, Alan Cook, and Jack Mount was the superintendent on site. And then, of course, I need to thank my team that was out here with me every week to make sure that we got everything correct and we didn't mess up with anything. This project was only possible due to all of our sponsors and donors, and we thank you for stepping up and supporting our men and women in blue. I think you're going to love this facility because I know our police officers have been out here training already in this facility, and they love it. At this time, I'd like to ask our chairman of the board, Tillman Fertitta, to come forward.
Now, do y'all want to talk something more interesting like the Houston Rockets? So, thanks everybody for joining us today. It took the citizens of Houston and so many donors to make this happen. But let me really tell you how this happened. Chief Hurt came to me, gosh, 14, 15 years ago and asked me to chair this after our first illustrious chairman, Don Sanders, who is here and is always so supportive, and asked me to be chairman of this. Well, then Chief McClellan came to me a few years later and said, Tilman, if you can build an aquarium and you can build a Kemah boardwalk and a pleasure pier, why can't you build a tactical center? And so me and the chief went up to Washington, D.C. and said, this is the best tactical center in the United States. And we learned a lot from it, and it became one of those things that I was determined to get involved in and make sure it happened. And we came back and started working on this. And honestly, if Chief McClellan would not have, you know, put a gun to my head and said, we got to get this done, Tilman, it wouldn't have happened. And so many people have stepped up in the community. I have the greatest board in the city of Houston that we've handpicked over the last few years that stand up and just make it happen. And then with Mayor Turner coming in once again, so supportive. Everybody knows how supportive of everything we do in Houston. When you have somebody like our mayor who represented this city in the legislature and knows how things happen and truly wants to do what's best for the city. And then we've been fortunate with our latest chief, we all know, and is such a dear friend and has been so supportive of this also. He wished it would have been his idea, but it wasn't. But I'm sure he'll come up with something else to say, let's get done. So Chief McClellan, always be careful that the history isn't that it was Acevedo who came up with this. So, but with COVID going on, I appreciate everybody that came out here. Dave Ward, one of my board members, who was the only person in the media that always steps up and writes a check, and I respect you so much for that. I'm not saying anything bad about the rest of the media, but Dave Ward is the model citizen of the city of Houston. That because he does it in every way. He talks the talk and walks the walk. And if there's anybody I'll look up to, it's Dave Ward, who was even the MC of my wedding in 1991. So thank y'all all very much. Mayor, why don't you come up first, and then we'll let the chief talk.
Thanks. Thanks, Tillman. Let me thank Tillman and Fertitta again, and then of course with got a couple of council members that are here today. Councilmember Pollard and Councilmember Carolyn Evans Shabazz are present, and then to Chief Acevedo, Chief McClellan, all of the police officers, and of course all of you. Let me start out by saying to Tillman, appreciate him so very much. I am available for the Rockets for cheap. Just give me the opportunity to play, and you can keep the money, But now, let me just say to Tilman and to Charlene, it is good to see you both today, along with everyone else, all of the sponsors and the Houston Police, of course, Foundation, the donors, and everyone who is here to support the Houston Police Department. I recall being here in January 2019 for the groundbreaking, and today I'm in awe of the final construction on the Tillman Fertitta Family Technical Training Center. It is no surprise that Tilman and his team built a first-class, state-of-the-art facility. That's pretty much just the way he does it. And this is only the fourth tactical training center of its kind in the nation. I know we're going to see some demonstrations in a few minutes, and it is important to note that HPD can train its own officers here, utilizing a mock city layout with streets, buildings, schools, and shops to give officers a realistic view for real-life scenarios. Also, I want to mention Councilmember Peck's representative is here as well, so I do want to acknowledge Councilmember Peck. While the pandemic delayed the ribbon cutting, HPD gained access to the building back in June of this year to begin tactical training on threat response and infrastructure protection. And Houston is a city that invests in law enforcement and supports the men and women in blue who work every single day to protect our city, and that is no easy task. As I've said during the groundbreaking, our city is deeply grateful and blessed that the Fertitta family gave the first donation to get this project started, and that others have joined as well and contributed handsomely to this project. They've given them their time and their work. Can't say enough for that. The Houston Police Foundation serves a vital role, connecting private investment dollars with effective public safety solutions. And the city of Houston already has some of the most dedicated and disciplined officers in the country. Working together and with this facility, we prepare our officers to prevent crime, enforce laws, preserve the peace throughout our city, and quite frankly, our men and women in blue helps citizens in this city on so many different levels. The city is forever indebted to individuals, businesses, and philanthropists who understand all of us have a stake in hiring the best for our police force, making sure they are well trained and have the resources they need to keep our community safe. And in our city, we do our best to make sure we give them what they need in order for them to leave their home safely and return home to their family safety. So again, let me say thank you to Tilman, to the Fertitta family, for all of the supporters, the donors, contributors, all of the people who have been so generous in making this day possible. On behalf of the entire city, let me say thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor and Mr. Fertitta. Thank you to the board, the board that's up here. Let's give the board another big hand. Thank you all so much for your generosity. But I want to correct one thing that Tilman said. He said it wasn't my idea. Now, the mayor's my witness. Mayor, where'd my mayor go?
I'm here.
He's like a ninja, I'm telling you. I told the mayor, the guy put in my heart several years before that I was going to end up in Houston. And so I whispered to Chief McClellan at a Chiefs meeting, hey, you know what you really need in Houston? You need one of them tactical villages. Anyway, before I say my comments, if I could, can I have Chief McClellan just say a couple of words? Come on up, Chief, and I'll make...
Once again, you steal somebody else's thunder. I was going to let him do it.
Well, first of all, thank you, Chief Acevedo and Tilman, for just letting me say a few words. This is a big deal. It really is. And let me tell you why. There's a lot of people that are responsible for this, but let me tell you why it's a big deal. When you expect officers to behave or do something differently, they have to be trained differently. Everyone around the country now is clamoring for officers to do more training. Everywhere you go across the country, they're saying, police need more training. But if you don't have a facility to do that in, how do you expect to accomplish that? I believe that one of the things when the physical budget tighten up and you don't have resources, you should never, ever, ever cut training, and you should always increase training in difficult times. When I went to Mayor Parker and told her about this, she said, well, Chuck, I don't have any money. If you can get this thing off the ground, you know, do what you can. I may can contribute some infrastructure. And this is where the Police Foundation came in. I didn't know if I can convince them, but I did. And as Tilman said, we went around the country and looked at different training facilities and found that Washington, D.C. had the best. And we knew we were a better city than Washington, D.C. We wanted to come back and build the best. And once Tilman, we flew up there and we toured their facility. He was sold. He came back and says, hey, let's do it. Let's get this thing in motion. So with that, I can't thank the chief of Washington, D.C. at the time, Kathy Lanier, that fully cooperated and let us tour the facility, gave us their blueprints, their drawings, told us to use it in any way that we could. And all the board members, supporters, y'all have done a great thing for the Houston Police Department in this city. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chief McClellan. Thank you for your leadership and thank you for your vision. And most importantly, thank you, Tilman, for putting your money where your mouth is. You talk a lot about community. You talk a lot about community police. You talk a lot about supporting the police. But this is evidence of everyone that made this happen, from the Fertitta family to Charlene to the board members to the Astros to the 100 Club, to everybody. It couldn't have happened without you. And I think Chief McClellan said something that's really important. And that is at a time when the political environment in this country is about defunding the police, cut the police. We are blessed to live in a city where we're led by a mayor in Sylvester Turner and a council that supports him, that understands that what the people of Houston want is not less policing. They don't want defunding of the police. They want better policing. And we have such a thoughtful mayor and council, and I think we should give our political leadership here a big hand for supporting the Houston Police Department. Because I'm going to tell you is when you have a critical incident, you're going to rely on your experience, you're going to rely on your instinct, and if you have bad instinct and don't have experience, then you better damn well have the training. And that's what this facility is going to do. It's going to create an opportunity for us to train our men and women in real world scenarios that have happened, will happen, and are yet to happen, that will ensure that when we respond in a tactically sound, strategic manner, and that we will save lives. There is no doubt in my mind, to everyone that made this happen, that we are going to save lives. And as we closed out the day yesterday, burying one of our fallen heroes, the third one that was killed in the line of duty under hostile action this year, fourth one of the year. This facility, without a doubt, will never know what name what name will not go on the wall in terms of the National Memorial. But I promise you that there will be names that, but for this training, would have been added to that wall. And there will be victims of violent criminals that would have been added to the annals of the toll of violent crime in the city that will not happen because of this tactical village. And so I will close by saying thank you. We plan on using this for not just our men and women. We are a regional partner, and we hope to bring in our regional partners and help them train here as well, because as we all know, none of us live on an island, and we all need to collaborate if we're truly going to keep the greater Houston area safe. So Tilman, thank you. Thanks to the board, and thanks to everybody that made it happen. Congratulations to Houston PD. Thank you, Gary.
Thanks. Once again, thank you all for coming out. And the smartest thing I ever did when I became chairman was hire Charlene as my executive director, and she's done a great job. I just want to recognize the people that gave $250,000. I just feel like they're worth mentioning. The Astros Foundation, Hildebrand Family Fund. What? 250 and above. John Now, Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo, the Fondren Foundation, Phillips 66, Keith Mosing, and Ann and Chris Richardson are here, who were individually gave $100,000. So I truly appreciate y'all. Go back a long way. Once again, thanks to everybody for coming. Let's go inside and have some fun. Appreciate it.
Tilman, Council Member Amy Beck wanted me to give you this. It is my honor to recognize the Houston Police Foundation for the ribbon cutting of the new Tillman Fertitta Family Tactical Training Center. This is an asset for our officers and city. Congratulations on this great accomplishment.
Thank you.
3.